Okay, so today I am going to be working on the Jeep. I am going to attempt to remedy some slop in steering knuckle. I have bought all the parts to completely rebuild it. However, hopefully I won't need to. Hopefully I can take out some shims and shore the whole thing up. And we'll take you from hub disassembly to steering knuckle disassembly and hopefully get it all back together again without slop. Okay, so the reason for our fix today is steering knuckle slop. I didn't realize when I started this brake job that I had a steering knuckle issue, but if you could see here, all of that motion in that wheel should not be there. So in order to get to the steering knuckle, unfortunately, we have to remove the wheel and the hub, the full assembly, in order to get to the knuckle. So we are going to begin to do just that. Here you can see the 1.5 inch spacers that I had to put on in order for the wheel to clear the brake caliper, which is not ideal, but at the same point, when you've got 80-year-old equipment and you're trying to modernize it, it takes some effort, right? There's my 1.5 inch spacer. These studs are too short for the 1.5 inch spacer. I got some new studs, which I have right here. And no, they aren't perfect for this application, but because I won't be removing the spacer regularly like maybe I would the wheel, these will do the job. First of all, we have to remove the caliper. Then we can just lift the caliper right out and set it aside. Okay, so now we have our hub exposed, and we can get to work removing the hub. The steering knuckle is back here, and again you can see this motion in the steering mechanism that should not be there. So first we have to remove the hub cap, which should pop right off of here. There it is. Then we need to remove the cotter pin, or cotter key, if you will. The retaining nut, and washer there. Okay, then comes the hub flange. Switch up sockets here, and these take a 9/16. And these are full floating axles. However, on the front, the cap engages this blind shaft here. On the rear, if I remove this cap, the whole axle would come out, which we are going to take the axle out, but it doesn't come out with the cap. Okay, so we've got all our bolts out, so now this cap will come off and the shims. There's the cap. You can see the shims that are used for spacing. And that comes right off. So now the hub will turn separate from the axle. The axle puts the torque through the cap into the hub, which drives the wheel. So now what we have to do is actually disassemble the hubs, the bearings out of the hub in order to remove the hub. That's the only way to get to the parts we need. So we are going to take our thin wall socket, I certainly got it on there good and tight last time I had it off. So here we go. Now this is just your retaining nut. This is once you get your hub set, this goes on to hold it all in place. And you can see here where they've boogered it with the chisel, getting it on and off, which makes it hard to grip with the socket. Next, we have a washer. I tend to bring it in here. Here we go. And this washer, previous servicer has bent up the washer to hold the nut in place. I won't be doing that. And the tab, there's a groove over here. There's a groove right here. The tab goes in the groove and it faces in towards the center of the hub. Okay, so now what we do is we remove the actual hub nut that holds the bearings into the hub. So this one should come out significantly easier because it's not nearly as tight. And once we get that started, we can just remove it by hand. And there it is. And then, lastly, before we can get this hub off, there is one more washer that goes between your nut and your bearing, which sometimes I can get it to pop out of here. It does not want to come today. That's okay, because I'm going to pull off the entire hub, which will bring that with me. So this one come on out here. There you see we have the washer. and then the outer bearing, which that outer bearing is recently packed. It's good to go. We'll just throw that back in there when we're done. And the hub comes right off. You can see the race in there. It's good and smooth. It's actually brand new. The inner seal and the inner bearing are there, and they just go on to the spindle. And I'll have to clean that rotor off before I put the calipers back on, because we don't want any grease on there. So our axle is here, spindle's here, and here is our steering knuckle. And you can see how that articulates. Our CV joint is inside the knuckle. And when these were manufactured, they filled that with 90 weight gear oil. However, this one does not have gear oil in it. I don't have to drain it first or anything like that. It is full of a viscous grease, which is a good thing. Alright, so I'm going to turn this towards you so you can see a little better. You can see we have a series of bolts here. They're 9/16 as well. They hold on the dust cover, the caliper bracket, and the spindle to the steering knuckle. Alright. You can tell that is a lot of slop. I'm hoping that the removal of shims can fix this, but it probably won't. But I have all of the parts to rebuild it for both sides, although the other side, the right side, did not require it. Some silicone from the gasket I put in when I did the brake conversion. And you ask, why didn't I do the knuckle while I was doing the brake conversion? Because I didn't know it was bad before I got into it, and I had to order parts. So. There is our dust shield and caliper bracket. Set those aside. So now we have our spindle. And I put a silicone gasket in there. I don't think you need to, but I didn't want any leaking out of there. So here we'll go ahead, we use a rubber mallet. And there we go. So our spindle comes right off, and you can see our axle. And inside our axle is the CV joint, and this CV joint is not exactly what you would call standard. It uses huge ball bearings instead of U-joints. And we'll see if we can get it to come out without taking the balls apart. And that whole axle should slide right out. So this is well packed with grease. My plan is to not disassemble and not have to repack. You can see the CV there, and it has like 5 balls. Trying to get that all back together could be a small difficulty for one person alone. So I'm going to leave that together and just bring out the axle. So now we have our steering knuckle exposed. And what we have here is very dirty. But there is a king pin that goes up through here, which is held on by this plate, and a king pin that goes down through here, which is held on by this plate. And there are shims in between both plates and the steering knuckle itself, which allow you to adjust the tightness of those bearings. Now, I don't know. There is a lot of slop in there. What I'm most likely going to try to do first is remove some shims from the bottom and see if that doesn't tighten it up. If I need to, I will remove some shims from the top. There we go. All right, so here we have shims. Here we have the kingpin, which I'll make sure I have all of the shims off. Okay, so all the shims are off. Now I'm going to try to flip this back up in here. Blaster in here. And see if I can't tap this back up in here and see if removing all those shims bought us any room, or it took away any of that. Alright, so yesterday's was much friendlier. Today's is not wanting to go back in, so let's get under here and take a look and see why we're not lining up. There we go. All right. Oh my. All right. So it looks like we've got no joy. Looks like this one's going to be a full rebuild. All three of those shims didn't make any difference. So I am going to now prep for the full rebuild. So now we'll go ahead and take that top cap off. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and try double nut and pull these studs out. I may be successful, I may not. Okay, so in order to try to make a little extra room here so we can work, I'm going to take off the back plate with the seal and the wipers and all of that good stuff. See if we can't make a little more working room. Come off. Aha! There we go. So, oh yeah, I'll get you a close-up of that. Here is the bearing. Huh, the bearing doesn't seem to be bad. We're going to replace it anyway, but there's a lot of junk. There's a lot of junk in there. Bearing appears good. The race was bad. That is perfectly fine. Like I said, we have replacements. Alright, so both of these races or bearing seats are completely chewed up. They've got furrows in them. I'm going to try to get them out. Right there. You can see that that one is completely hammered. Let's get the other one, clean it up a little bit. And you can see quite well there that those were both destroyed. So now we'll get some parts cleaner, clean up these seats and see if we can't get the new ones in. Here. Well, try to get this cleaned up. So I wasn't expecting to be able to do this job today, so I don't have any John Deere cornhead grease. I will have to pick some up this week while I'm out and finish this up tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next weekend. However, would like to get this top bearing cup set. There's the new bearing cup, and it sits right in like that. And I'm going to get a block of wood and tap that baby in there. Cup. Alright, my rubber hammer. I don't want to mar I do not want to mar that brand new race bearing cup. There we go. Nice. All right. So that's in there quite nicely. And we will clean up the bottom one and try to get it in. Yay! New bearing cups, races are in place. And just to show you here, that bearing will go right in there. When I get it loaded up with grease, and that kingpin on the cap will set right down in there. And we'll use shims to get the proper bearing tension or compression. And then the other one will go right up under here. And yay! Alright, now unfortunately, like I said, I have no corn head grease. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to completely disassemble and reassemble, but there you have it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish cleaning out this side of the knuckle. Go. And now we wait.